Hello, dear all. Good evening. Welcome to our session 5 webinar series conducted by Research Committee, Maharajas College. Last class, we Reinhardt സാറിനെയാണ് റിസോഴ്സ് പേഴ്സൺ ആയിരുന്നത്. സാറിനെ നമ്മൾ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് പറ്റിയിരുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ സാറിൻ്റെ ഹൈ പ്രൊഫൈലാണ് ഒന്ന് ജസ്റ്റ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞിരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ജസ്റ്റ് ഞാനൊന്ന് പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുകയാണ്. Sir, International Relations and Politics, Central University of Kerala, Politics Department Assistant Professor ആണ്. സാറിന് ഒത്തിരി PG ഉണ്ട്, MA പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ സയൻസ്, അതേപോലെ തന്നെ പബ്ലിക് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷനിൽ പബ്ലിക് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷനിൽ നെറ്റ് ക്വാളിഫൈഡ് ആണ്. സാറ് ഒരുപാട് എന്താ പറയുക അക്കാഡമിക് ആൻഡ് നോൺ അക്കാഡമിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ബോഡീസിലെ മെമ്പറാണ്. ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ കംപ്ലയിൻസ് കമ്മിറ്റി അതേമാതിരി തന്നെ ഒത്തിരി ഉണ്ട്, ഞാനത് എല്ലാം ഒന്നും വായിക്കുന്നില്ല. അതേമാതിരി തന്നെ 2 ബുക്ക് എഴുതിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ബുക്ക് ചാപ്റ്റേഴ്സ് 9 ഉണ്ട്, എഡിറ്റഡ് ബുക്ക് 1 ഉണ്ട്, റിസർച്ച് പേപ്പേഴ്സ് 20 റിസർച്ച് പേപ്പേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, റിസർച്ച് പ്രൊജക്റ്റ് 1 ഉണ്ട്. പ്രസന്റേഷൻസ് ആൻഡ് ഇൻവൈറ്റഡ് ലെക്ചേഴ്സ് 56 പ്രസന്റേഷൻസ് സാർ ഇതുവരെ നടത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. 4 ഡോക്ടറൽ സ്റ്റുഡൻസ് ഉണ്ട് സെൻട്രൽ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി ഓഫ് കേരളയിൽ. അതേമാതിരി തന്നെ സാർ ഒരുപാട് സെമിനാറിനും കോൺഫറൻസിനും കൺവീനറായിട്ടും കോർഡിനേറ്ററും ആയിട്ടും ഒക്കെ പ്രവർത്തിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. പിന്നെ അതേപോലെ തന്നെ സാറിന് ഒത്തിരി അവാർഡ് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു UGC ഡോക്ടർ S രാധാകൃഷ്ണൻ പോസ്റ്റ് ഡോക്ടറൽ റിസർച്ച് ഫെലോഷിപ്പ് ഇൻ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ സയൻസ് 2015 ആൻഡ് ജൂനിയർ റിസർച്ച് ഫെലോഷിപ്പ് പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ സയൻസ് 2010. പെരിയാർ EV രാമസ്വാമി ഗോൾഡ് മെഡൽ ഫോർ MPhil പൊളിറ്റിക്സ് ആൻഡ് ഇന്റർനാഷണൽ സ്റ്റഡീസ് പോണ്ടിച്ചേരി യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി 2010. യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി എൻഡോമെന്റ് അവാർഡ് 2009-10. University of Kerala, Dr. A. Ramaswamy Mudaliar Gold Medal and Professor V.K. Nandan Menon Prize for securing highest mark in MA Political Science at University of Kerala during the academic year 2007-2009. Then Maulana Azad National Fellowship for MPhil 2010. Then first rank in MA Political Science, University of Kerala 2009. Then CSIR Intellectual Trophy April 2009. Second rank in BA Political Science, University of Kerala 2007. അങ്ങനെ ഒത്തിരി റിച്ച് പ്രൊഫൈലുള്ള ഒരാളാണ് നമ്മുടെ റീൻഹാർട്ട് സാറ്. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാവരുടെയും റിസർച്ച് കമ്മിറ്റിയുടെയും എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിൽ സാറിനെ നമ്മുടെ സെക്കൻഡ് സെഷൻ, അതായത് സാറിന്റെ സെക്കൻഡ് സെഷൻ നമ്മുടെ റിസർച്ച് കമ്മിറ്റിയുടെ സെഷൻ 5 ആണ്. സയന്റിഫിക് കണ്ടക്ട് ഓഫ് റിസർച്ച് ആണ് നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് എടുക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ റിസർച്ച് കമ്മിറ്റിയുടെയും എല്ലാ ഇവിടെ സന്നിഹിതരായിരിക്കുന്ന എല്ലാ റിസർച്ച് സ്കോളേഴ്സും അതേമാതിരി സൂപ്പർവൈസിംഗ് ഗൈഡിന്റെ എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിലും സാറിനെ ഞാൻ ക്ഷണിക്കുകയാണ്. എല്ലാവരെയും ഈ വെബിനാർ സീരീസ് സെഷൻ 5ലേക്ക് ഒന്നുകൂടി ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു. സർ.
Good afternoon. Teacher, am I audible?
Sir, you are audible.
Okay. Yeah. And thanks for the nice introduction, teacher. Teacher, paranju enna burshasi akalle. Okay, we can start with today's session, scientific conduct of research. In the last class, we left an area to be discussed, that is ethics. The branch of philosophy that deals with ethics or axiology. After discussing axiology, we will move to scientific research, scientific conduct of research. And in the last class, we will discuss about ethics in research, ethics of the researcher, ethics when it comes to publication, all those things. So, axiology, in simple sense, the study of values. And it is subdivided into ethics, aesthetics, social and political philosophy. So what is ethics? Ethics concern itself with the question of morality in simple sense. So what is right, what is wrong is the focus of ethics. See, actually it's a very difficult question, and it is very difficult to answer what is right, what is wrong, because it depends upon situation. Let us look at an example. Take the case of a railway police constable. So he or she, while on duty, sees a beggar or a destitute person on the railway platform. What he or she is supposed to do? See, as a railway police constable or a railway protection force fellow, a person who enters the railway platform without a valid travel ticket or a platform ticket is, or that act is a punishable offense. So what the police constable should do, whether he should allow that destitute or that beggar to be there, or whether he should remove such a person from the premises of the railway station or at least from the platform. Legally, the railway police officer is supposed to do his duty, that is, remove such a person from the platform. Okay, individual morality differs from morality of, say, society or state or law. Same is the case with a railway keeper. Once he closes the railway gate, he cannot open the way for an ambulance to pass. While thinking from a human platform or thinking from a humanitarian ground, he or she should allow that ambulance to go. But imagine something happens in between and the train comes. It hits a bus. So how many persons will lose their life in such a situation? So when you weigh individual morality with morality of the system or duty, it will be very difficult to say what is right and what is wrong. So what is right from my perspective will be wrong from the perspective of the other fellow. So normally we can see children who are forced to be beggars. And normally we will help them. But the question is, through that act, are we supporting forced beggar, forced labor? If we are not giving, someone will say, what kind of fellow is he? Even he is not giving to any paise to that child. So it's a question from the part of an individual. And other person may say that, okay, there is no need to give money because once we give, we are promoting child labor. We are promoting traffic in human beings. Others say, okay, we should give at least, it's a child begging in the street. We should give him some money. So morality, what is right, what is wrong, differs according to individual. And when it comes to philosophy, coming to the ethics part, we often divide this ethics into three major areas. One is descriptive ethics. The other one is normative ethics. The third one is meta-ethics. When it comes to descriptive ethics, it seeks to identify the moral experience in a descriptive way. Description means, yeah, simple, the explanation. Describe the features of state. So what are the features of state? So when it comes to descriptive ethics, we are describing the situation, describing, or we are trying to identify the moral experience in a descriptive way. And it is an attempt to distinguish what is from what ought to be. So what is right? How to help the poor? Which are the ways to help the poor? Which are the ways to help the destitute? So this is descriptive ethics. And we consider the conduct of individuals, that we call it as personal morality. And when it comes to group, it is known as social morality. Second is normative ethics. As the title indicates, it is judgment regarding what ought to be. When what is the focus of descriptive ethics, what ought to be is the focus of normative ethics. What ought to be in the choice and value of an individual. We ought to keep our promises. You ought to be honorable. Why people behave the way they do? All these are concerned with choice and values that are what ought to be. So that is the focus of normative ethics. Then comes the critical or meta ethics. And when it comes to critical or meta ethics, the interest is concerned on the analysis and meaning of terms and languages used in ethical discourse. So critical or meta ethics is not concerned with what is right, what is wrong. It is merely concerned with the language or the terms that we use in ethical discourse. What is the meaning of good? What is the meaning of justice? What is the meaning of equality? What is the meaning of fraternity? So the focus is on the words that are being used in research. The language aspect of philosophy that we discussed when we discussed the nature of philosophy, the fourth nature of philosophy, the logical analysis of language and clarification of the meaning of words and concepts. Critical or meta ethics does this, but the focus is on the moral discourse or the ethical discourse. He did a good job. What was that good job? That is the focus of descriptive ethics. How that fellow could do a good job, that is the focus of normative ethics. What is the meaning of good when it comes to good work? That is the focus of critical or meta ethics. So the ethics part is over. Then comes the second part of axiology, aesthetics. Aesthetic beauty of nature. So it concerns the theory of art and beauty. Or you can call it as a critical reflection on art, culture, and nature. Or the study of sensory or sensory emotional values. It also includes the judgments of sentiments and taste. And modern times, you can see art theory, literary theory, film theory, theories related to music theory like that. So anyway, the concern here is on theory of art and beauty. Questions of art and beauty are considered to be the realm of values because of the philosophical problems in aesthetics, which involves critical judgments. I think there is no need to go deeper into aesthetics. Then the last part of ethics is social and political philosophy. And this social and political philosophy investigates value judgments concerning society, the state, and the individual relation to the institution. As we discussed, what is right from the perspective of an individual will be different from what is right from the perspective of a state. Why should individuals live in society? What social ideas of liberty, equality, justice are desirable? Why should anyone obey any state? So why I should obey the law? Normally we say law is only for law-obeying citizens. Who should have political power? Why some individuals have more power than others? Why some are getting undue share when it comes to resource allocation, when it comes to allocation of portfolios, when it comes to allocation of power? So social and political philosophy investigates value judgments concerning society, the state, and the individual's relation to these institutions. How an individual is related to the state. Normally there we analyze power relations, how state controls the individuals, whether using military force against individuals are acceptable or not. So there comes a critical question. Why should we give armed forces a special power when it comes to civilian areas? The relation between individual and the state. What shall govern the relationship between the individual and the state? So this is the focus of social and political philosophy. So axiology, study of values, subdivided into ethics, aesthetics, and social and political philosophy. Ethics have three branches or divisions: descriptive ethics, normative ethics, critical or meta ethics. Then comes aesthetics, concerning the theory of art and beauty. So the focus is on sensory or sensory emotional values. Taste of an ice cream, beauty of nature, beauty of a river. Then social and political philosophy, which investigates value judgments concerning society. So the relation between the individual and the state or society forms the focus of social and political philosophy. So we have completed the area of philosophy, the nature of philosophy, and branches of philosophy. So if you are clear with this, we can move to science, scientific research, and scientific conduct of research. Can I move?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is science? In simple sense, science refers to a systematic and organized body of knowledge in any area of inquiry that is occurred using scientific method. Normally, we have an assumption that science means physics, biology, chemistry. It ends there. No. Science refers to any systematic and organized body of knowledge. But one condition is there, that knowledge should have been occurred using scientific methods. What is scientific method? We can discuss. And normally we classify science into two broad categories that we all know: natural science and social science. And natural science is the science of naturally occurring objects or phenomena. There we have the physical sciences, there we have the life science, we have the earth science. And when it comes to social science is the science of people or science of collection of people such as groups, firms, and societies. So social science, it's also a science. You can do scientific inquiry, you can do scientific method when it comes to social sciences also. So what is the difference between a natural science and a social science? See, when it comes to natural sciences are very precise, very accurate, deterministic, and it is independent of the person making the scientific observation. For example, take the case of laws of motion by Newton, Sir Isaac Newton. The movement of a pendulum. When it comes to any natural science, things are very precise, accurate, and independent of the person making the scientific observation. So two students conducting the same physical experiment or physics experiment will get the same result. Otherwise, either both of them are wrong. But this cannot be possible when it comes to social sciences. See, 2 units of hydrogen and oxygen under controlled condition gives water. So if the control condition is there everywhere, if you apply this equation, you will get water. But take the case of violence, reasons for violence, political violence. It will be different when it comes to Trivandrum, it will be different when it comes to Kollam, it will be different when it comes to Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra, it will be different when it comes to United States of America. Voting behavior of individuals. That factors that determine voting behavior in United States will be different from the factors that determine voting behavior in Kerala. So when it comes to social science, this precision, accuracy, determinism, and independence will not work all the time. And when it comes to this natural sciences, you cannot see that much disagreements. What is the reason behind an earthquake? There won't be much difference between different experts. What are the reasons for cyclone in Arabian Sea region or in Indian Ocean Zone region? Or the movement of oceanic currents in Pacific or Atlantic Ocean region? There won't be much difference of opinion among natural scientists. But when it comes to social scientists, on a single issue, you will get n number of opinion. For example, reasons for global terrorism. How to reduce global terrorism? N number of opinion will be there. And these opinions will be mutually antagonistic to each other. Mutually conflicting opinions will also be there. So this is the difference between a natural science and a social science. So when it comes to natural sciences, scientific research is very much possible, but when it comes to social sciences, it is very difficult. And the person who conduct the research also influence research. So see, if I believe in a liberal philosophy, my attitude towards state will be different from a person following a Marxian philosophy or a socialist philosophy. So when I consider state as an instrument to increase the welfare of individuals, other person may see the same state as an instrument of oppression. So difference of opinion is there when it comes to social sciences, and to prove that in a scientific manner is very difficult. So what is important is scientific. So what is scientific knowledge? That is going to be the focus of our discussion now. In between, teacher, hello teacher.
Sorry, കേൾക്കാം.
ടീച്ചർ ഞാനൊരു PPT അയച്ചത് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ കഴിയുമോ ടീച്ചറെ? അത് ടീച്ചറിന്റെ മെയിലിലേക്കാണ്. ഒന്ന് സ്ക്രീൻ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാൻ ഒക്കുമായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ നല്ലതായിരുന്നു ടീച്ചർ. അത്
ഞാൻ ഷെയർ ചെയ്യാം സാറേ.
ഓക്കെ, കുറച്ച് സമയം എടുത്തോളൂ ടീച്ചർ, കുഴപ്പമില്ല. സയന്റിഫിക് നോളജ്. So what is the purpose of science? The purpose of science is to create scientific knowledge. And what is scientific knowledge? Scientific knowledge refers to a generalized body of laws and theories to explain a phenomena or behavior of interest that are occurred using scientific method. I will make it simple. Scientific knowledge refers to a generalized body of laws and theories. And these laws and theories are used to explain either a phenomena or behavior of interest. And these laws and theories are occurred using scientific methods. So 3 criteria needs to be satisfied. There should be a generalized body of laws and theories. And these laws and theories should be capable of explaining phenomena or behavior of interest. And the laws and theories that we use for explaining these things should be occurred using a scientific method. We can discuss it one by one. So what is a law when it comes to scientific research? Laws are nothing but observed patterns of phenomena or behaviors. Observed patterns of behavior or phenomena. For example, voting. People belonging to a particular religion casting their vote for a particular political party. See, there is a saying in political science, normally in sociology also, Jat ki beti Jat ko, jaise Jat ki vote Jat ko. This means that a Jat fellow will give his daughter, marry his daughter only to a Jat fellow. Like that, a Jat fellow will give his vote only to another Jat. Observed patterns, observed behavior. So first we will take an example from physics. Newton's laws of motion. First law, second law, third law. Every body continues to be in a state of rest or uniform motion until an external imbalance force acts on it. Second, the rate of change of momentum, rate of change is directly proportional to the unbalanced external force acting on it. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If any physics person is there, if I am wrong, please correct me. So these are the laws of motion.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir. I have shared the PPT.
Yes.
Yeah.
So within 2 minutes, we will come to that PPT. First, we will discuss law, then we will discuss this theory.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So a specific law is there. So in a bus that is moving, when the driver suddenly applies the brake, we tend to fall forward. A pattern is visible. When the bus suddenly takes, person who stands tends to fall backward. A pattern is visible. Let it be the properties of energy, laws of thermodynamics, theories of optics. You can see specific patterns. These patterns are clear. Patterns are visible. And what is theory? Theories are systematic explanations of underlying phenomena or behavior. Why something happens? In the first case, we said when a bus is moving and the driver is suddenly applying the brake, then I tend to fall forward. A pattern is visible. Why I tend to fall forward? There is a specific reason for that. That is being explained by what is known as theory. The purpose of theory is that. Then we can go to this slide. Please look at the slide. What is a theory? In simple sense, theory is an explanation. It is a general explanation of natural or social behavior, event, or phenomena. Why an earthquake? Why a person from a particular community cast his vote to a particular candidate? So, specific reason is there, and the purpose of theory is to explain this particular reason. So, it's a set of principles that tells why people do what they do in a variety of contexts. Any sociology student here? Any student of sociology? Any student of sociology?
Sociology.
No need to be frightened. I'm not going to ask any question. I'm just requesting your help for explaining a theory.
Sir, there is no sociology department in our college.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So normally in sociology, we use we often speak about theory of programmed authority. Theory of programmed authority. And okay, since all belong to Kerala, I will explain that same in Malayalam. So it will be very easy to understand in our mother tongue. Teacher, മലയാളികളില്ലാത്ത ആരുമില്ലല്ലോ?
Yes, sir. Illa, sir. You can proceed in Malayalam.
Okay. നമ്മൾ ഗ്രാമ റോഡുകളിലൂടെ പോകുമ്പോൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നാട്ടിൻപുറത്തൂടെ പോകുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ കാണുന്ന രണ്ട് ബിഹേവിയർ ഉണ്ട്. ഒന്ന്, നമ്മൾ വാഹനത്തിൽ പോകുന്നു, ആ നാട്ടിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാരാണെങ്കിൽ റോഡിനകത്ത് കയറി നിൽക്കും. നമ്മൾ വാഹനമായിട്ട് ചെന്നാലും അവർ മാറി നിൽക്കില്ല, അവർ നിൽക്കുന്ന പൊസിഷനിൽ തന്നെ നിൽക്കും. സോ വി ഹാവ് ടു മേക്ക് അവർ വെഹിക്കിൾ ഷിഫ്റ്റ്, ഒരു ചെറിയ മാറ്റം വരുത്തി വളഞ്ഞു കയറി പോകേണ്ടി വരും. നിൽക്കുന്ന പൊസിഷനിൽ നിന്ന് മാറാൻ അവർ റെഡി ആവില്ല. ചില നാട്ടിൻപുറത്ത് നമ്മൾ വഴി ചോദിച്ചു നോക്കൂ, അപ്പൊ ഇച്ചിരി ഒരു പറഞ്ഞു തരാൻ ഒരു ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിരിക്കും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു പ്രത്യേക ചിലർക്ക് നല്ല രീതിയിൽ പറഞ്ഞു തരുന്നവരുണ്ട്. ദ പോസിറ്റീവ് ആസ്പെക്ട് അവിടെ നിൽക്കട്ടെ. ദേ വോണ്ട് ബി റെഡി ടു ഗീവ് എ പ്രോപ്പർ ആൻസർ. നമ്മൾ വാഹനത്തിൽ ഇരുന്ന് ചോദിക്കുന്ന ചിലർക്ക് ഇഷ്ടമല്ല. സെയിം ബിഹേവിയർ യു ക്യാൻ സീ വിത്ത് റെസ്പെക്ട് ടു ആനിമൽസ് ഓൾസോ. നിങ്ങൾ പോണ്ടിച്ചേരിയിൽ പോവുകയാണെങ്കിലോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വേണ്ട നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൻപുറത്ത് തന്നെ ആണെങ്കിലും ചിലപ്പോൾ വാഹനം വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ഈ നായ്ക്കളൊക്കെ റോഡിൽ കയറി കിടക്കും. ഈ ചെറിയ വാഹനങ്ങളാണെങ്കിൽ ഇവർ മാറത്തില്ല, ദേ വോണ്ട് മൂവ്. വലിയ വാഹനങ്ങൾ വരുവാണെങ്കിൽ ദേ വിൽ മൂവ്. ചെറിയ വാഹനങ്ങളാണെങ്കിൽ ദേ വോണ്ട് മൂവ്. What is the specific reason? The theory that explains that is theory of programmed authority. That is an authority that is programmed in the mind of either those individuals or those animals. Their argument is that this is my place. ഇത് എൻ്റെ സ്ഥലമാണ്, എൻ്റെ നാട്ടിൽ പോകുന്ന റോഡാണ്, ഞാൻ ഇവിടെ നിൽക്കും, നീ ഒരു അന്യനാട്ടുകാരനാണ്, അപ്പുറത്തോടെ വാഹനം മാറ്റിക്കൊണ്ട് പോവുക. The same attitude is there with respect to animals also. നമ്മൾ ചിലപ്പോൾ വീട്ടിന്റെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ നിലയിലൊക്കെ സിറ്റിയിൽ താമസിക്കുന്നവരറിയാം, ഈ സ്റ്റെപ്പിലൊക്കെ പൂച്ച കയറി കിടക്കും. ആൻഡ് ദേ വോണ്ട് മൂവ്. നമ്മൾ ജസ്റ്റ് ഒന്ന് തലപൊക്കി നോക്കും, എന്നിട്ട് നേരെ അതേപോലെ അവിടെ നിൽക്കും. ദിസ് ഈസ് മൈ പ്ലേസ്, നിനക്ക് പോകണമെങ്കിൽ നീ ഇപ്പുറത്തൂടെ മാറിപ്പോയിക്കോളൂ. ദിസ് ഈസ് തിയറി ഓഫ് പ്രോഗ്രാംഡ് അതോറിറ്റി. Why people do what they do in a variety of contexts? ഈ വഴി കയറി നിൽക്കുന്ന ആള് ഒരു പോലീസുകാരനാണ് വരുന്നതെങ്കിൽ നേരെ റോഡിന്റെ സൈഡിൽ ഇറങ്ങി നിൽക്കും. ഒരു പൂച്ചയാണ് കിടക്കുന്നത്, ഒരു നായ് വരുന്നതെങ്കിൽ പൂച്ച നേരെ അവിടുന്ന് മാറിയിരിക്കും. ഒരു വലിയ വാഹനമാണ് വരുന്നതെങ്കിൽ നായ്ക്കൾ അവിടുന്ന് മാറിയിരിക്കും. സോ ഇൻ എ വെറൈറ്റി ഓഫ് കണ്ടക്ട്സ് പീപ്പിൾ ബിഹേവ് ഡിഫറently. Why? Theory of programmed authority explains that. So in simple sense, theory is an explanation. It is an explanation of natural or social behavior or events. So coming to our research, theory provides the foundation of general knowledge that can be applied to past, current, and future problems. So, so theory, when it is supported by evidence, it can be applied to other related phenomena also. With the help of example, we can understand this. For example, the case of poor performance in an examination. Say, I wrote an examination, miserably failed in that. N number of reasons can be there for the poor performance of examination. Sometimes I covered the wrong portion. I wrote the wrong answer. I didn't get time for studying. The question was that much tough. I was physically not well. I was mentally not well. So lot of reasons are there. So when it comes to theory, we need to find the right answer and it should be supported by evidence. Then only it can be applied to other circumstances. Teacher, next slide, please. So normally there are two kinds of explanations. One is ideographic, the other one is nomothetic explanations. Ideographic explanations, it gives explanations to a single situation. Why I failed in the examination. See, I went for a cinema, so I forgot about the examination. I arrived late at the exam hall. So I was in a hurry, so I couldn't read the questions properly and I skipped some questions. I wrote wrong answer. And I had tension and stress, everything. So it is my particular situation. It is not a general situation. It is individualistic in nature. And this explanation may not be applied to similar circumstances. Why I failed in the examination? The reason for that failure will be different from the reason for failure of another fellow B. And so the issue with ideographic explanations are that they are not generalizable. So you cannot use this ideographic explanation for the purpose of a theory. Opposed to ideographic explanations, you have the nomothetic explanations, which seeks to explain a close of situation or events. Why you failed in the examination? Simple reason is, I didn't prepare well for the examination. I didn't spend adequate time preparing for the examination. Okay, you went for the cinema, you forgot the examination. In both these cases, I didn't spend adequate time preparing for the examination. I didn't prepare for the examination. This is a simple reason. Whatever be the reasons for not preparing for the examination, examine പഠിക്കാതിരിക്കാനുള്ള കാരണങ്ങൾ എന്തെല്ലാം ആയിക്കോട്ടെ, ബേസിക് കാരണം എക്സാമിന് പഠിച്ചില്ല, അതുകൊണ്ട് എക്സാമിന് പരാജയപ്പെട്ടു. Didn't spend adequate time for examination. So these nomothetic explanations are designed to be generalizable. So it has application to a class of individual, or it is applicable to similar situation. But the issue is that this is less precise, less complete, and less detailed. So issues there both with ideographic as well as nomothetic explanations. But when it comes to development of theory, we prefer nomothetic explanations. Next slide, please, teacher. So what is the objective of theory? What is theory? We explained. Theory is an explanation. What is the objective of theory? The objective of theory is to explain why things happen rather than just describe or predict a thing. So objective of theory is not to describe what something is. What is an earthquake? What is a cyclone? What is meant by violence? For these things, there is no need for a theory. It needs only explanation. But when it comes to theory, the objective is to explain why an earthquake happened here, why cyclones are becoming frequent in the Arabian Sea region, why there is a Pacific ring of fire, why US is interested in Indian Ocean region, why China is supporting Pakistan in developing the Lahore port, why the string of pearls, why India is against China in WTO, why things happen, why all these things happen, why we are interested in modernizing the police force. What is modernization of police force? It is different. But why we are interested in modernizing? Why the Thunderbolt commandos? Why autonomous status is being given to colleges? What is autonomy is description. For that, no need for a theory. But why we are giving autonomous status to a college? Yeah, there we need explanation. So the objective of theory is to explain why things happen rather than just describe or predict. See, when it comes to prediction, prediction requires what is known as correlation. If you study well, you will pass. If you won't study, you will not pass. നമ്മൾ എല്ലാവരും വീട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് കേട്ടിട്ടുള്ള സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ് ആണിത്. And explanations, when it comes to explanations, explanation requires causations or understanding of cause and effect relationship. So three things are there when it comes to explanation. One is correlation between two constructs. Okay, what is meant by construct? We can learn, no need to worry. Second, temporal precedence, that is, cause must precede the effect in time. So before I tend to fall forward, the driver should apply the brake. ഓടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന വാഹനം ഡ്രൈവർ പെട്ടെന്ന് ബ്രേക്ക് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നു, നാം മുന്നോട്ട് വീഴാൻ പോകുന്നു. ഡ്രൈവർ ബ്രേക്ക് അപ്ലൈ ചെയ്യുന്നു ഓടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന വാഹനത്തിൽ, അതാണ് ആദ്യം സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്, കോസ്. എഫക്റ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നാം മുന്നിലേക്ക് ആയുന്നു, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പെട്ടെന്ന് വാഹനം എടുക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ പിന്നിലേക്ക് പോകുന്നു, വാഹനം എടുക്കുന്നു എന്നതാണ് ഫസ്റ്റ് ആക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. കോസ് must precede the effect in time. Then rejection of alternative hypothesis. I think when it comes to നിങ്ങൾ hypothesis എന്താണെന്ന് പഠിച്ചു എന്നതാണ് എൻ്റെ വിശ്വാസം. അതുകൊണ്ട് I'm not going to touch upon what is meant by hypothesis. It's a tentative assumption which is subjected to rejection. Okay. Next slide, please. Teacher, next slide, teacher. So, what is scientific theory? We are going to see it. Technically speaking, scientific theory is a system of constructs. A system of constructs and propositions that collectively present a logical, systematic, and coherent explanation of phenomena of interest. ടീച്ചർ, അതിന് തൊട്ട് മുമ്പുള്ള സ്ലൈഡാണ് ടീച്ചർ. The slide just before that slide. So a system of constructs and propositions that collectively presents a logical, systematic, and coherent explanation of phenomena of interest, with some assumptions and boundary conditions. So what is a construct? It is stated here, construct means a concept. Concept means generalizable properties of an object, our height, weight, violence. Examples are there, no need to worry, no need to worry. Then proposition. Proposition simply means a relationship between two constructs: political culture, violence. Law enforcement, crime rate. Effective law enforcement leads to reduced crime rate. So what is the relation between law enforcement and crime rate? If you better enforce the law, crime rate will decline. So construct, proposition, and all these things should be presented in a very logical, systematic, and coherent manner. And it should have some assumptions and boundary conditions. One by one, we can learn. Next slide. Next slide, please, teacher. So what are the building blocks of a theory? Okay, now in our mind, we have the assumption, or we have the thought that theory is an explanation. Theory is an explanation about why things happen. Now we are going to see what are or what constitutes a theory. In the previous definition, we spoke about certain things. One is construct. Construct is the what of theory. What concepts are important for explaining a particular phenomena? This is the what of theory. Proposition is how these concepts are related to each other. For example, personality is a construct. Personality of an individual. He is having good personality. He is having bad personality. He is having better administrative skills. He is having good leadership quality. And personality is something complex also. A number of factors determine personality. And what is the relationship between personality and administrative ability? Proposition. The relationship between two constructs. How the concepts are related to each other. How personality is related to administrative ability. Then logic, third brick. It speaks about why. Why are these concepts related? Why personality and administrative ability is related? Why corruption and maladministration, administrative delay is related? How democracy, why democracy and citizen participation is related? Then comes boundary assumptions. It examines who, when, where. Under what circumstances will these concepts and relationship work? So theory needs a boundary. You need constructs. And there should be some relationship between constructs that will be explained by proposition. Then comes the logic, why it is related. So after discussing construct, logic, then propositions, boundary assumptions, theory will be clear. So what is a construct? Construct is nothing but an abstract concept that is specifically chosen to explain a given phenomena. Distance, friction, technostress. These are concepts that we use to explain a particular thing. Concept means it is having generalizable properties. Height, weight. Then, as I said, personality, but it is a combination of certain factors. Communication skills. So you have unidimensional, you have multidimensional concepts. And higher order abstractions are known as constructs. And lower order abstractions are known as concept. See, height is a concept. It's simple, unidimensional in nature. Weight, unidimensional in nature. Age, unidimensional in nature. But personality, communication skills, all these are higher order abstractions. And so we call them as construct. Then intelligence. See, intelligence you cannot measure. Directly, it is not possible to measure. So we use IQ to see how much intelligent that particular individual is. So these concepts have a value, and that value varies. And measurable representation of an abstract concept is a variable. No need to get confused. The simple meaning of construct is that it is an abstract concept that we choose to explain a particular phenomena. Personality and administrative capacity. So personality of the individual is the construct. How personality is related to administrative ability. The time spent on studying. Listening capacity of an individual. All these are constructs, an abstract concept that is specifically chosen to explain a given phenomena. Next one is, we have some examples of construct. Next slide, please, teacher. Simple example, height, weight, then combination, personality, communication skill. Weight is a unidimensional concept. Communication skill is a multi-dimensional concept. Then, vigilance of the police force. Police force, okay, it's a machinery, it's an object or an item. Desirable properties means vigilance of the police force. Police in the Jagrada. It's a construct, it's a concept. How you will measure that vigilance of the police force? Yeah, one is the number of beat patrol. എത്ര ബീറ്റ് പെട്രോൾ പോലീസുകാർ നടത്തുന്നു, രാത്രിയിൽ എത്രത്തോളം ബീറ്റ് പെട്രോൾ ഉണ്ട്, അത് പോലീസിന്റെ ഒരു ജാഗ്രതയാണ് സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നത്. So the number of beat patrol here is a variable. Vigilance of the police force is the concept. Next slide, teacher, next slide. Yeah, these are the examples that we discussed. Yeah, we can move to the next one. Next one. So there, you have the different types of constructs relating to ideas, people, organization, events, objects. Okay, we can move to that proposition. Second one is proposition. I will leave the slide. Teacher, you can share the slide among the students, no issue. Second one is proposition. Proposition means the association. It can be tentative or it can be conjectural. That is postulated between the constructs. For example, an increase in student intelligence causes an increase in academic achievement. An increase in student intelligence causes an increase in academic achievement. We need to test this proposition. And how can we test this proposition? Directly, it is not possible. As I said, how you will evaluate, how you can measure intelligence, how we can measure happiness. See, when it comes to Bhutan, okay, they have the happiness index. They have certain criteria. Based on that criteria, they are telling that, okay, this is a happiness index. Directly, you cannot measure happiness. So directly, you cannot measure intelligence also. For that, we use, this IQ. Same way, academic achievements. How you will measure academic achievement? Available criteria is just look at the SGPA or CGPA, semester grade point average or cumulative grade point average. And for testing this, we develop certain propositions. And the empirical formulation of propositions are hypotheses. The stated relationship between two variables. For example, an increase in student IQ scores causes an increase in their CGPA. An increase in student IQ score causes an increase in their CGPA. The increase in road accidents are due to reckless driving. The increase in cyclones in Arabian Sea region are due to warming of Arabian Sea region. See, this needs to be tested. This is a tentative statement, and this needs to be proved. This needs to be tested. That way, we call this proposition as hypothesis. And the difference between a pure proposition and a hypothesis is that propositions are specified in the theoretical plane, but hypotheses are specified in their empirical plane. That is, we need to observe and say. I need to observe the score of students. Then I have to say that, okay, this is right. For example, students who score high in mathematics score poor in languages. This is a hypothesis. Students who score more in mathematics score poor in languages. How can I validate that? First, I have to look at the score of students. So when it comes to their mathematics, and students who score high in mathematics, say above 80. Then I'm looking at the score of students when it comes to their languages. What is their score there? How many students who got more than 80 in mathematics failed in languages? Then only, that is through empiricism, empirical observation, or through observation, I need to prove that. Till that, it is a tentative assumption, and we call it as hypothesis. So one is construct, second one is proposition. Third one is, next slide, logic. What is logic? We have already discussed. Logic provides the basis for justifying the proposition. It connects the theoretical constructs and provides meaning and relevance to the relationship between the constructs. It should be logical, that is based on reason. Clear explanation shall be there. You have to explain why this happened with the help of boomerang we discussed in the previous class. When we say that, okay, it is due to gyroscopic precision, okay, it is right. That is a logical explanation of a boomerang. Inertia, logical explanation for why I tend to fall forward or backward. But I'm simply giving an explanation as namala cinema കാണുന്ന Chatan Seva എന്ന് പറയുന്നുവെങ്കിൽ it is not a logical explanation. So you need logical. The justification between the relationship shall be logical in nature. Finally comes, teacher, next slide, boundary conditions or assumptions. So normally boundary conditions govern where the theory can be applied and where it cannot be applied. For example, say take the case of economics and political science. Economics is mainly concerned with the rational economic behavior of human beings. Okay, both studies human beings. When it comes to economics and political science, human beings are the focus of study. But when it comes to economics, the focus is on rational economic behavior. And when it comes to political science, it sees people as more political than rational. So when it comes to resource allocation, utilization or consumption, you need theories of economics. Theories of politics cannot explain that. And to study power structure, you need theories of political science. Okay, economic factors will affect the power structure, that I agree. But to explain power structure, you need to rely on political science. But to explain human being as a rational economic being, you need the theories of economics. So why state came into being? Economics cannot explain that. Why individuals purchase a particular product? Theories of political science cannot explain that. So boundary conditions and assumptions. So if you study economic issue, you have to use theories of economics. If you go for political science, okay, there you need to apply the laws of political science. If it is sociological, okay, you need to apply that. See, for example, we often use the word pressure groups when it comes to political science, pressure groups. That is any interest group that puts pressure on government or any official body can be called as a pressure group. Pressure groups are groups other than political parties. And when it comes to sociology, we normally use the word neo-fundamental movements. New fundamental movements. For example, you might have heard about, okay, this is just for academic purpose, this Hanuman Sena, Sri Ram Sena, all those things. In sociology, we are telling that these are the product of identity conflict. That is, when it comes to a highly globalized society, this organization doesn't have any merit to explain of their own. So they need an identity, so they will take up an issue. Based on that, okay, they will act. നമ്മൾ ഈ സദാചാരവാദം എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ് നിങ്ങൾ കുറെ കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടായിരിക്കുമെന്ന് ഞാൻ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നു. ഈ മംഗലാപുരം ബെൽറ്റിലാണ് ഈ ഹനുമാൻ സേന, ശ്രീറാം സേന വർക്ക് ചെയ്തു തുടങ്ങിയത്. Later it became part of political movement. Leave that. So in sociology, we call them as neo-fundamental movements. And when it comes to political science, they are pressure groups. Because they are capable of exerting pressure on political parties or groups associated with the government. So in order to study their tactic, I need to use theories of political science. So in order to understand what these groups are, I need to rely on sociology. Hope you got the difference between, or hope you got the boundary conditions or assumption. Coming to the final aspect of theory, next slide. What are the characteristics of a good theory? One is the concrete specification of concepts and variables. It should clearly tell what are the concepts, or the concepts and variables used in study shall be very clear. For example, I am using the word bureaucracy. See, bureaucracy includes higher bureaucracy, lower bureaucracy. What kind of bureaucracy is referred to in my study? When I use the word income, does it mean monthly income, or it means annual income, or it means the income after tax? So clear specification of concepts and variables shall be there. Otherwise, it will be a general statement. സാധാരണ നമുക്കറിയാം, നമ്മൾ പണ്ട് വീട്ടിലൊക്കെ ചെന്ന് പറയും, ഇപ്പം ഹോംവർക്ക് ചെയ്യാത്തതിന് ടീച്ചർ വഴക്ക് പറഞ്ഞു എന്ന് ചോദിക്കാൻ പറയും, ആരൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു? ഒരുപാട് പേരുണ്ടായിരുന്നു പറയും. ഈ ഒരുപാട് എന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് ക്ലിയർ. വീട്ടിൽ ചോദിക്കും അടി കിട്ടിയോ? ഒരുപാട് പേർക്ക് അടി കിട്ടിയെന്ന് പറയും. കുറെ പേരുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. It means it is not clear. When it comes to theory, it should be specific, precise, clear. Then theory should clearly explain the relationship between concepts. See, look at Newton's laws of motion. A body continues to be in a state of rest or uniform motion until an external force acts on it. When an external force acts on it, equivalent to the force that is applied, that particular body will move. So the relationship is clearly explained. When you trigger the button, yeah, the bullet goes. The relationship between concepts, causes, effect, it shall be clearly explained. Then logical consistency. It is a building block of a theory. It should be logically consistent with each other. That is, it shall be based on reason. Then a good theory is falsifiable. Actually, in the coming class, we will discuss what is meant by falsification, fabrication, plagiarism. Actually, when it comes to ethics, these things are there. Falsifiable means theory is potentially disprovable if empirical data doesn't match with the theoretical proposition. I'm telling that this is the relationship between two different things. The relationship between studying and marks obtained in an examination. If you study more, you will get good marks. You will get more marks. This is my proposition. And based on observation, I am telling that, okay, if you study more, you will get good mark. Even if you won't study more, you will get good mark. Or the time spent for study, I'm telling that if you spend 8 hours for studying, you will get 80% of marks. For a student, sometimes he need to work only for 1 hour to get this 80% of the mark. So it means that the assumption, the theoretical proposition is disprovable. So based on evidence, I can reject it. If you are telling that the rate of change of momentum is inversely proportional, okay, the theory of Newton is falsifiable. It can be rejected. But if the body moves according to the force exerted on it, okay, the theory is proved. So this is about theory in simple sense, an explanation of what happens. Are you clear with theory? If you are clear with theory, within the next 20 minutes, we can discuss scientific research and scientific methods. Are you clear with theory?
Anyone please respond? മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ട് സാർ. ഒത്തിരി എക്സാമ്പിൾ സഹിതല്ലേ സാർ പറഞ്ഞത്? നന്നായിട്ട് മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ക്ലിയർ ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ സാർ.
ഞാൻ അതിന്റെ തിയറിയുടെ ഒരുപാട് കാര്യങ്ങൾ എടുത്തില്ല, കാരണം അത് കൺഫ്യൂസിംഗ് ആയിപ്പോ. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ അതിന്റെ ഇൻഡെപ്തിൽ പോവാതെ എക്സാമ്പിൾസിൽ നിന്നത്. Now we can discuss scientific methods. So science is very clear for us.
സാറേ ഞാൻ സ്റ്റോപ്പ് പ്രസന്റിംഗ് കൊടുക്കണോ? ഇത് കഴിഞ്ഞല്ലോ.
സ്റ്റോപ്പ് പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്തോളൂ ടീച്ചർ. അത് സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്തോളൂ ടീച്ചർ.
ഓക്കെ. ഒത്തിരി പേര് ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ ഇടുന്നുണ്ട് കേട്ടോ സാറേ. ക്ലിയർ സർ, ഹെസ് സർ എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്.
Okay, Disha. So what is science is clear. What is scientific knowledge is clear. Then what is scientific research? See, theories and observations are the two pillars of science. So scientific research operates on two levels. One is the theoretical level. The other one is the empirical level. Theoretical level, empirical level. In that case, please bring to your mind induction and deduction that we discussed in the last class. Induction means a movement from specific to general. Deduction is a movement from general to specific. So when it comes to inductive research, the goal of researcher is to infer theoretical concepts and patterns from observed data. That is, By observing, I'm seeing that a ball is moving and I am applying a force on that particular ball, and in connection with the force that I exerted on that particular ball, that ball is moving. I observed that. I observed that 100 students are studying well. They are concentrating, they are studying for 3 or 4 hours. They are getting good marks. Okay, no need to take these examples. You might have seen the advertisement of Horlicks. This much students were selected. They were given this health drink. This much students were given another health drink. After 6 months of evaluation, it is found that the students who used Horlicks, they have become taller, sharper, and stronger. So observation. So based on observation, you are inferring theoretical concepts and patterns. And when it comes to deductive research, the goal of the researcher is to test the concept and pattern. So in the first case, I'm giving Horlicks to 100 students. I'm giving another health drink to 100 students. And I am observing the pattern. And after observing the pattern, I'm telling that, okay, students who drank Horlicks, they have become taller, sharper, and stronger. When it comes to deductive research, I am just testing the theory. So the theory is that if you drink Horlicks, you will become taller, sharper, and stronger. For that, how you can test that? Okay, bring another 100 students, give 50 Horlicks, 50 another health drink. After a study of 6 months, you can say that, okay, whether this theory is right or this theory is wrong. The second is deductive research. The first one is inductive research. And we should keep in mind that both inductive research, that is theory building, and theory testing are critical for the advancement of science. Science needs theory building as well as theory testing. So conducting scientific research requires two sets of skills. One is theoretical, the other one is methodological. Methodological means, okay, you need to operate the theoretical and empirical levels respectively. You know the theory, it's good. Okay, I know the theory. But I should also know how to apply this theory. I know the law of gravitation, but I don't know how to apply the laws of gravitation. Then, okay, my study won't succeed. So, know how, know what. Know what is the theoretical skill. You have the theoretical skill. Know how is the methodological skill. See, having a license and knowing how to drive a car, a vehicle, is the difference between, you can say, the theoretical and methodological aspect. Okay, I know all the theories of, I'm telling about my specific case, the laws of vehicle laws, road safety rules, everything is clear for me. I have a license, but frankly speaking, I don't know how to drive a car. I don't have the confidence. It means that I don't have the methodological skills. So to be a driver, I need the methodological skills. By simply having a license, it doesn't mean that, okay, you are a driver. See, imagine I took license this year. After 20 years, I'm telling that I have 20 years of experience. No use. It's only theoretical. I don't know how to drive a car, how to drive a scooter. It means that I don't have the methodological skill. So when it comes to research, theoretical research, the theoretical aspect and methodological aspect is important. Here comes the scientific method. So what is scientific method? Scientific method refers to a standard set of techniques for building scientific knowledge. The objective of science is, okay, to develop scientific knowledge. How to develop scientific knowledge? you need a standard set of techniques. What are the standard set of techniques? See, how to make valid observation, how to interpret result, how to generalize those results. I should know all these things. Science students will know this better than social science students because they often conduct experiments. And those experiments are at the core of their research. They should do that experiment in the right manner. As we discussed, hydrogen and oxygen under controlled condition, though that controlled condition is important. If that controlled condition is followed in India, Nigeria, Chad, Sudan, United States, you will get water. The condition shall be followed. So the standard set of techniques shall be followed. So the scientific method allows researchers to independently and impartially test the pre-existing theories and prior findings. We need to test theory. To test the theory, I should know the methodology. I have to see whether this theory works. For that, I need to know the methodology. Otherwise, how I will test that particular theory? See, നമ്മൾ വളരെ രസകരമായിട്ട് എക്സാമ്പിൾ പറയല്ലോ, ഈ കൊരങ്ങന്റെ കയ്യിൽ പൊതിക്കാത്ത തേങ്ങ കൊടുക്കുക എന്ന് പറയുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നായയുടെ കയ്യിൽ പൊതിക്കാത്ത തേങ്ങ കൊടുക്കുക എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സെയിം സംഭവം. The methodology should be clear. That thing is good, but we don't know the methodology, how to use it. Then scientific method should satisfy at least 4 characteristics. Then only we can say that the methodology that we are following is scientific or not. One is logical. I think these terms, these technical terms, we are now clear. Logical. That is, scientific inferences must be based on logical principles of reasoning. Why that boomerang comes back? Why the vehicle stops when we apply a brake? Why that rocket is moving? Why a stone that is thrown upwards comes down? Logical principles are there. And inferences must be based on logical reasoning. Second one, confirmable. That is, the inferences derived must match with the observed evidence. Take the case of that Horlicks example. Inference is that those who use Horlicks will become smaller, topper, stronger. It should match with my observation. After watching, say, 100 students or 50 students, I'm telling that, okay, that's right. On observation, it is clear that they have become sharper. On observation, it is clear that a road accident in that particular region is due to reckless driving or due to the poor condition of road. Police vigilance, the police patrol, beat patrol is high in a particular area. Their crime rate is very low. The inference is that if the police force is more vigilant, you can reduce the crime rate. And this is based on an observable evidence. If you wear mask, COVID-19 pandemic can be reduced. The risk of pandemic, risk of exposure can be reduced. Observable evidence is there for that inference. If you have vaccine, if you are vaccinated, the chance of getting infected is low. Observable evidence is there. Then third thing is repeatable. Repeatable means that other persons who do this particular research independently should replicate or repeat our result. So I did the study on 100 students on Horlicks. Another fellow is doing the same result. So the result should be replica. Replica means reflection, identical. Okay, sometimes it may not be identical, but it should obtain similar result. Otherwise, there can be chance of falsification or fabrication. Here, within 1 or 2 minutes, I will discuss what is meant by falsification, what is meant by fabrication. Normally, when it comes to court, we will say that fabricated evidence. കെട്ടിച്ചമച്ച അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിർമ്മിച്ചെടുത്ത എവിഡൻസ്. Actually, making up of data, cooking up of data is known as fabrication. Totally fabricated. യാഥാർത്ഥ്യമായിട്ട് ഒരു ബന്ധവും കാണത്തില്ല, നമുക്ക് ആ സിറ്റുവേഷന് വേണ്ടി കുറെ ഡേറ്റ ആക്കിയെടുത്തു. This is fabrication. Falsification means manipulation of research materials, equipments, process, changes in words, tones, anything with respect to data or results. I will give an example. For example, in a particular temperature, water boils at a particular temperature. We say 100 degrees Celsius. And in my study, I'm telling that, okay, you need 150 degrees Celsius to boil water. And for that, I manipulated the temperature, the device used for measuring temperature. I'm stating that, okay, at 150 degree, when mercury level reaches 150, yeah, this water boils. This much amount of material may be required for a particular item. See, when it comes to construction, we will say that this much amount of cement for sand. Say 1 kg of cement for 5 kg of sand. I am putting 3/4 of 1 kg and 5 kg of sand. This is falsification. And then I am telling that, okay, things are good. Falsification means manipulation. Manipulation of data, manipulation of procedures. So without fabrication and falsification, the result shall be similar. Sometimes identical results will be difficult, agreed, because it depends upon circumstances also. But replica, it shall be repeatable. വീണ്ടും വേറൊരു വ്യക്തി ചെയ്താലും ഒരേ റിസൾട്ട് തന്നെ കിട്ടണം, repeatable. The fourth one is scrutinizable. That is, the procedures used and the inferences derived must withstand critical scrutiny by other scientists. See, when it comes to our research, there is an open defense, and I think there is a pre-submission presentation. What is the purpose behind this pre-submission presentation and open defense? And once we submit the thesis, that hard copy, it will be sent to 3 or 4 examiners. I don't know the exact number. It differs according to departments. Peer reviewable. It should be scrutinizable. They will scrutinize. They will see whether the right methodology is followed, whether the theory is clearly stated, whether the inferences derived is right. And if the majority approves, okay, you are awarded the thesis. And any branch of inquiry that does not allow scientific method to test its basic law or theory cannot be called as a science. For example, take the case of theology. Theology is, in simple sense, the study of religion. It is not a science, because theological ideas cannot be tested by independent observers. You cannot use logical, confirmable, repeatable, scrutinizable way. See, the presence of God. See, please don't think that I am not telling that there is God, there is not God. Neutral. How can you say that there is God in a scientific manner? In a scientific manner, you cannot tell that. It depends on my belief. I believe that in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. It is my belief. Through science, you cannot prove the existence of God. So, theology is not considered as a science. And when it comes to arts, music, literature, humanities, In many areas, they are not purely considered as science because in many areas, I'm not telling in all areas, in many areas of this discipline, logical, confirmable, repeatable, scrutinizable methodology cannot be adopted. But there are cases in which it can be applied also. But all these subjects, arts, music, literature, humanities, law, they are creative. They have their own rights. They have their own findings. But an issue is that there we cannot apply logical, confirmable, repeatable, scrutinizable features. It cannot be tested by independent observers. So this is an issue between social science and natural sciences. But in order to make social sciences scientific, we use a variety of research approaches and tools. We use quantitative data. We use field survey, case research, ethnographic research, action research. Or in order to study the behavior of a population, I will do part observation technique. I need to study how a mob behaves. Then there I will do observation. I will do field survey to get an opinion regarding a particular government policy, the exit polls, field surveys. I do case research. So all these are attempts to make social sciences more scientific in nature. And we should mainly keep in mind that scientific methods operate primarily at the empirical level of research. There, we have to make observations. We have to analyze these observations. So as I discussed, theory as well as methodology is important when it comes to scientific research. In some sense, we can say that know-how, methodological skills are more important than know-how. So this is about scientific method. Teacher, എനിക്ക് ഒരു 2 മിനിറ്റ് കൂടി എടുക്കാമോ? കാരണം നമ്മൾ ഇന്നലെ ഒരു ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ 2 കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാനാണ്. I will take only 2 or 3 minutes. Can I?
ചെയ്തോളൂ സാറേ, അത് കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ചെയ്തോളൂ.
Last class, we said that we can discuss positivism and empiricism. We made a passive reference to positivism, but we cannot explain positivism due to time limits. In simple sense, positivism is a philosophical system that recognizes only those things which can be scientifically verified, or only those things that can be scientifically verified, or only those things that can be logically or mathematically proved is accepted when it comes to positivism. So you can call positivism as pure science approach. Normally when it comes to research, we call it as mental models or paradigms. PARADIGMS. Paradigms are nothing but mental model. And when it comes to social sciences, 2 dominant paradigms are there. One is positivism, the other one is post-positivism. Positivism means pure science approach. You are trying to apply the methodology of natural sciences to social sciences. And knowledge, in order to be valid, should be empirically tested. Okay, a theory is there. The laws of motion, laws of gravity is there. But I will believe that only after being tested. Scientific verification is needed to approve a theory or knowledge. This is the position of positivism. Then comes the question, what is empiricism? When it comes to empiricism, all concepts originate in experience, or the emphasis is on experience. You need evidence. Knowledge comes from or primarily from sensory experience. Okay, I am observing a bus that is moving. Okay, Then I observed that the driver applied the brake. Okay, the passengers who stand, they are falling forward. Okay, I observed. This is empiricism. Your sensory experience is important when it comes to empiricism. So empiricist accepts only those things as knowledge that is empirically tested. Other things, okay, they won't accept. According to positivists, okay, knowledge is valid only when it is scientifically proved, only when it is capable of logical or mathematical proof. So these positivists reject theology. They don't accept the initial modes of knowledge. They are telling that, okay, this is not having any scientific experience, scientific background. So they reject that. And within 1 minute, I will stop. When you look at the history of scientific thought, we can say that initially it was the age of rationalism, that is reason, process of systematic or logical reasoning. Then comes empiricism. Then comes the age of natural philosophy. Then come idealism. Then comes positivism. Then comes anti-positivism. Because positivism is having its own limitations. Because their argument is that theory, in order to be valid, should be tested. See, when it comes to social sciences, okay, it is not always possible. You cannot always have quantitative data. You have to use qualitative data also. Then how you will quantitatively analyze qualitative data? A question is there. So that led to the rise of what is known as anti-positivism, and they adopted qualitative research. Then comes post-positivism. Then comes critical research. Okay, this is just for your purpose of understanding. Rationalism, empiricism, natural philosophy, idealism, positivism, anti-positivism, post-positivism, critical research, and it goes. So this is the history of scientific thought. So today we discussed axiology. Then we came to science. We defined science. Then we discussed scientific knowledge. Then we discussed theory. What is theory? What are the characteristics of theory? Then what are the building blocks of a theory? Then we discussed scientific methods. Then we dealt in a nutshell the history of scientific methods. If you have any doubt, we can discuss it right now.
The session is open for discussion. If you have any queries, you may please ask to our resource person. Hello, Lindsay, Jency, Jayashree.
Philosophy tough ആയി പോയോ?
Radhu. ഫിലോസഫിക്കാരിയാണ് റധു വത്സൻ.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
ഇല്ല സാറേ, സാറ് വളരെ സിമ്പിൾ ആയിട്ടാ പറഞ്ഞത്. തിയറിയൊക്കെ എന്താ പറയാ, എക്സാമ്പിൾ സഹിതം ആണ് എല്ലാ ടേംസും പറഞ്ഞത്. സയൻസുകാർക്കും കൂടി ലോസ് ഓഫ് മോഷൻ തുടങ്ങിയല്ലേ സാറ് തുടങ്ങിയത്. ഇനർഷ്യയാണ് ആ ബസ്സിലിരുന്ന് മുന്നോട്ടായണതും അതൊക്കെ വളരെ സിമ്പിൾ ആയിട്ട് എല്ലാവർക്കും മനസ്സിലാവുന്നതാണ്. കാരണം നമ്മൾ 9ാം ക്ലാസ് തുടങ്ങി പഠിക്കുന്നതാണല്ലോ. ഇപ്പൊ സോഷ്യൽ സയൻസുകാർക്കാണെങ്കിലും ആ എക്സാമ്പിൾസ് ഒക്കെ മനസ്സിലാവും. കാരണം 9th സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് ഓൺവേർഡ്സ് നമ്മൾ അത് ഇനർഷ്യയുടെ കാര്യമൊക്കെ പഠിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്.
So teacher, if they have no doubt, we can wind up for today. And
Radhika,
next
please propose vote of thanks.
Yes, miss. Good evening all. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks in this session of coursework webinar series organized by Maharajas College, Ernakulam. I would like to extend our deep sense of gratitude to the resource person, Dr. Reinhard Philipp, Assistant Professor, Department of International Relations and Political Science, Central University of Kerala. Sir, you have delivered a very informative session in a clear and simple manner and also with suitable examples. Thank you, sir, for the interesting session. I would like to thank Dr. Bindu Sharmala Miss, Research Coordinator, and all other members of Research Committee of Maharajas College for organizing this webinar series. I express gratitude to all the research guides and all the research scholars who have attended this webinar. Once again, thank you all for being part of this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, teacher.
ചാറ്റ് ബോക്സിൽ ഒത്തിരി കമന്റ്സ് വന്നിരുന്നു. നന്നായിട്ട് മനസ്സിലായി, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഡൗട്ട് ഒന്നുമില്ല, വിത്തൗട്ട് ഡൗട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് നന്നായിട്ട് ക്ലിയർ ആയി എന്നുള്ള രൂപത്തിൽ ഒത്തിരി മെസ്സേജ് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. സർ ഒത്തിരി നന്ദി. ഓക്കെ സാർ, ഒരു സെഷൻ കൂടി നമുക്ക് കാണാം. 6-ാം തീയതി അല്ലേ സാർ അടുത്ത സെഷൻ? സോറി, 5-ാം തീയതി അല്ലേ? 5-ാം തീയതി അല്ലേ സാറേ?
5ാം തീയതി, Monday.
5-ാം തീയതി. ഓക്കെ സർ, താങ്ക് യു.
And thanks for giving me this opportunity, teacher. കാരണം മഹാരാജാസ് കോളേജ് വളരെ ചരിത്രം ഉറങ്ങുന്ന ഒരു കോളേജ്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് കോളേജ് ആണെന്ന് അറിയാം. ഞാൻ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. എനിക്ക് അകത്ത് കയറാനുള്ള ഒരു ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി സത്യം പറഞ്ഞാൽ ലഭിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. ഞങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഒക്കെ പറയാം, നമ്മൾ സെൻട്രൽ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ആണ്, പക്ഷേ മഹാരാജാസ് കോളേജ് ഈസ് ഹാവിംഗ് എ ലെഗസി. അങ്ങൊരു കോളേജില് അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് ഓൺലൈനായിട്ടെങ്കിലും പഠിപ്പിക്കാൻ ഒരു 2 ദിവസം കിട്ടിയതിൽ ആക്ച്വലി വളരെ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു ടീച്ചർ.
ആക്ച്വലി നമ്മുടെ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ സയൻസിലെ അനക് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു സ്റ്റുഡന്റ് ആണ് സാറിനെ എനിക്ക് പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തി തന്നത്. ഓക്കെ സർ,
ഞങ്ങൾ UG PG അനക് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു
അല്ലേ? ഓക്കെ,
okay, thank you very much, teacher. Thank you.
Okay sir, thank you. Bye all.